Hi there, welcome in again to the Britt and Chad show. I'm Chad Anderson.
And I'm Brittany Anderson.
Thanks for joining us. We're 2 episodes in. Only one of them had to be a double take. So far we're batting 500. We're 50-50 on our episodes, and this is episode 3, which is we're recording this during the holiday time. We're actually recording this on Black Friday. And yesterday was Thanksgiving. I don't know if we'll do a recap episode or not, but it was kind of uneventful for us. My mom came up. We had fun, smoked a turkey. That was the first time to ever have like a big smoke project, I guess. And I'm paying for it today because my eyes are killing me. And I think it's from all the smoke that flies into you when you're standing over a big green egg for, what was it, about 3.5 hours or so?
It was quite a process and quite something to behold, but I am proud of you for doing it, pulling it off. Turkey was pretty good. And
I was gonna say, that was the first time. I would give it I'm borderline between 6 and 7 out of 10 because some of it was good, but I'm just not a turkey guy. Like, I eat it. It's almost like you feel like you have to. So I go 6 to 7 out of 10.
I thought it was pretty good. I think I prefer just a traditional baked turkey generally, but again, I was happy that you actually used our green egg, and I think you pulled it off.
So the green egg was something that we're sitting around in a pandemic last year, and we're like, well, we can't do anything, and we're just stuck here. So we invested more into our home, like a lot of people, and did an outdoor fireplace and a grill, and then also a big green egg. So, when you're stuck at home, you think you're going to use it, and then reality is like most things. No, I think we've used it probably 5 or 6 times, but they've all been for small things. Nothing was to the level of the turkey yesterday. Well,
Yep. So, we used it. We got it.
maybe it'll help sell the house later. That's kind of the goal. All right, so let's get to today. So this episode is all about travel and traveling as a family, traveling with kids, traveling in a pandemic. I get this comment all the time, a lot mainly from people at work, sometimes some friends. I don't know how often you get this message or comment from people, but everybody always says, I can't believe that you went here and did it with 3 kids. Because remember, ours are 5, 4, and 1 currently. So it's not like traveling with 15, 12, and 10, okay, like where they're self-sufficient for the most part. This is 5, 4, and 1. So do you ever get that, Britt?
Yeah, on a pretty regular basis, especially when we traveled, last year, kind of really in the height of the pandemic, because we had just had Locke. So he was brand new. So, we were traveling when he was just a couple months old, right?
Yeah.
Not even. Yeah, he was super little.
Yeah, let's see, he was born September 26th, and around November 27th, 8th, somewhere in there, we were on a plane to California and then crashed for 12 hours. And the next morning got up and went to Hawaii for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a haul. Maybe one of the most brutal. And we'll talk about some of that and traveling. So this episode, you're going to understand why we do this, kind of our mindset, where we go, why we do it. Like I said, we'll walk you through a short trip, a long trip, a drive, tips, tricks, our experience. We'll talk about the pandemic. Doing all this during COVID, even though things are obviously getting more and more normalized, there's still some stuff going on out there. And really, we just shared this story and our story on this so that hopefully if you're a family and you're hesitant on traveling, or you don't want to tackle it, or you're afraid to tackle it, or don't know what to do, maybe this will help you kind of down your journey and through the travel world. So a lot of times we travel. Well, I do love to travel. I really do. And my background of broadcasting before I got into the mortgage world, I would travel with sports teams all the time. So minor league baseball, I was on a bus or a plane, hotels. When I worked with Alabama, softball team, gymnastics, basketball, volleyball, uh, we were always on the road. There was one time I remember in college, I left on a Thursday and flew, which you fly private a lot of times with universities, which is very nice. So fly private to Fayetteville, Arkansas. There's a gymnastics meet Friday night. We broadcast that. Fly home Friday after the meet, get to Tuscaloosa Friday night around, I don't know, 1 a.m., drive through the night to wherever Bama was playing the next day in softball. Yeah, in softball. So we drove through the night to, I believe it was Columbus, Georgia. Then do a whole weekend set of games there, come back, drive back, and then get on a plane and go again with gymnastics somewhere else. So
this literally sounds like my nightmare. And, I was a college athlete. So, yes, we traveled a ton.
You know it too.
Well, yes, except for my experience was significantly different. I, played water polo at Indiana University. My entire team roster was made up of Californians and Canadians for the most part. And there's not a ton of water polo in the Midwest. So we would typically have to travel out west, which is rough because, you'd leave on like a Thursday, go out to California usually, play in a tournament for a couple of days, and then usually catch a red eye to get back to Indiana.
Yep.
And then we would take commercial flights. We did not typically get to fly private. And then we took a lot of buses if there were things locally. But I think the biggest struggle for me is that I really, really thrive on routine. And so travel obviously really throws a wrench in that, right? And that was always such a struggle for me. And then I also really noticed that I just would feel so crappy after airplane travel. I think it's a combination of the altitude, of just getting dehydrated. There's actually some really good data just that the chemicals that you're exposed to on airplanes can really wreak havoc on certain people, just depending on your own tendencies and predispositions. And I definitely noticed that for myself. And so I always felt so incredibly crappy after a flight, and it would really take me a couple of days to recover. And, as a college athlete, that was a huge issue because obviously I need to be on the top of my game to go and play in these tournaments. There's not a whole lot of recovery time. And then, coming back and trying to get into the swing of practice and routines. So over the years, I really noticed that. And I think that's one of the things that made me kind of dislike travel. I always loved going, getting to my destinations, but I really paid the price if I didn't kind of prepare for that. So that's something that I've kind of had to tackle over the years. And I definitely think that's made travel a lot more enjoyable. And then also just creating these routines around travel that we've done, both when it was just the two of us, and then certainly when we had kids come into the picture.
And none of our family lives in Nashville. So we do have an aunt and uncle and cousins who live here. But from you go see your parents or see your siblings, things like that. Like, we don't have that in Nashville. So anytime we go anywhere, it is a pretty big ordeal. And that's not to discourage you. It's just the reality, and you have to kind of wrap your head around that mindset of this is what it's going to be like. Now, what we have also done, though, is kind of set the expectation with family, because my parents are divorced and then remarried. So you got 4 sets of families there. Then with Brittany's mom, you have other relatives, traditions where you go to multiple houses and things like that across a day or two. So what I've tried to explain, and where we've kind of said, hey, this is what we're going to do, and we'll do the best we can. Because the problem is, you load up 3 kids and then drive somewhere, like down to Alabama, or you fly somewhere to California. Now, granted, you fly to California, you're staying more than just a couple of days, so you got more downtime. But like for Alabama, there have been a couple of times where you actually spend more time in the car driving from your house to the first house and then houses in between before you come home that evening. And you just kind of look back and you're like, wow, that was a whirlwind. I saw people for 5 hours, but I was in the car for 6 hours.
Yeah, and that's a lot when you've got little ones, for sure.
And 3 dogs.
Yeah, so I think definitely, to your point, setting those boundaries and those expectations and just recognizing like
And it's okay to set these.
it's yes, no, absolutely. And I think that's definitely something that's kind of changing with our generation. It's yes, you know, you want to maintain this level of, I guess, respect for your family and their traditions, but it's you have to take ownership of creating new traditions and setting those boundaries and teaching your kids what it looks like to set those healthy boundaries with family. And I think that's really important for your sanity and your mental health.
Yeah, it's not a fun holiday at all if the whole time there's just drama and anxiety and worrying about whose house you're going to and who we're seeing and who we're going to make upset and things like that. Holidays bring enough drama because people instantly get uptight because the same people, family and friends, come to the house, but because they're coming on this specific day or during this specific time of year, then everybody says, oh, everything has to be perfect. The food has to be perfect. The house has to be perfect. Everything has to be clean to perfection. Every piece of food has to taste exactly right. We have to be on a schedule, things like that. So there's already tension just naturally from holidays. And that will only add to it if you don't set the boundaries correctly. And it is okay to do it. Can't reiterate that
And
enough.
I think this really speaks to kind of the theme of our show. It's really, you know, building a life on your terms and kind of changing these paradigms that we've grown up with and creating something that really is your own and works for you and your family.
So let's talk about why we do the travel. So part of it is, yes, I don't want to say have to because that's the wrong term, but we do go places for holidays a lot of times. And so you have to figure that out and when you're going and who you're going to see and whatnot. But then we also just like to travel. And me personally, I've always loved to travel, but I just don't want to sit inside all the time. Like, you only get one shot at life. I don't want it to be stuck where you're going on one trip a year or you don't go see the world or you don't go do things. So our travel consists in reminding you of our kids. They're 5, 4, and 1. So what our travel and destinations are going to look like could be different from what yours look like. With little kids, we pretty much have 2 options. We'll throw in 3. You go see family, you go to the beach, or you go to Disney World. Like, that's it. The kids don't want to go to New York City and sightsee and go to museums or go to, wherever, like, even mountain destinations. I don't think a lot of times are more as kid friendly because they don't want to hike and they don't want to do some of those things or they wear out quickly. So the beach is a little more their speed or their style. Our kids would hike. I'm just saying you would wear out from that. Or if it's really, really cold, then you just end up stuck inside at a different destination than you are at your own house. So those are kind of our 3, right? I mean, I don't really see, we don't do much else other than those 3.
I did really advocate for us doing like a quick staycation a few weeks ago because I wanted the kids to experience, you know, the change in the leaves. And I thought that was really fun, cool. But it was an overnight, really quick. We didn't go stay in a cabin in the woods for a week.
I also, and so that's kind of the next step or comment that I have. I base travel and destination and what I'm going to do on how long I'm going to be there based on how far I have to go. So if it's just an hour, like when we went to Cookeville a couple of weeks ago, perfectly fine. You know, we go hang out overnight, do some s'mores, fireplace stuff, sleep in a loft. It's in the woods. You get out the next morning. Fun thing, right? 24 hours. It's a 1-hour drive. Not a big deal. Going to Disney World. You know, I look at that and go, I need a minimum 5-6 days in Orlando. And it's not to be just about the park. It's what you have to transport. And we'll get into that with our experience topic. But what you have to go through and transport to then immediately turn around. Like, that's not really much of a weekend type thing. Hawaii, I won't go that far. And we do Hawaii every December. So we're actually getting ready to leave here in a little over a week. And I won't go that far anymore. unless it's a minimum of 2 weeks because of what you go through to get there. Like, to me personally, it's just not worth it if you go through some of the work and the hassle that it takes to get there and then don't actually enjoy it and unwind.
I mean, I would go there for 24 hours, to be honest. But I get your point, especially with little kids. Yeah, it's a lot for sure.
Oh, sorry, I'm still drinking coffee and stuffy and sniffly, so I apologize for the probably terrible audio. But let's break that down. So those 3 places, like, and we've driven to the beach. We have a beach house, and we've driven down there that we use Airbnb. So when people aren't staying there, we'll go, twice a year?
Yeah.
For the most part, down to the beach. And, we've driven and we've flown on that. So just depends, because Southwest is amazing and take easy direct flights to Panama City or Destin. But you want to go through some of the trips, like if we go to, let's talk about what we pack and what you have to go through and plan, and then what it's like, from say start to finish.
I mean, I would say that I am definitely a minimalist when it comes to packing for the kids. Like, I have never once traveled with a stroller. To me, like, just trying to hold on to a stroller plus a suitcase plus children, like, that's a lot. So I've never ever traveled with a stroller. When we go to Disney, we typically will rent a stroller. So that takes like one thing off the list. Even really until lock, I didn't really travel with like a travel, crib situation either, because the boys just have always slept with us, which is great. And then a lot of places will have some kind of a, crib situation, whether you're in a hotel or an Airbnb or whatever, which is really nice. So I definitely think that parents tend to really overpack, and I get it. Like, you want to have all of the things that you typically have at home so that it's just easier to get the kids to sleep. Really until lock, our kids didn't sleep. So I guess like that wasn't as big of a thing for me. But that's something that I always think about. Like, how can I travel with the least amount of stuff for the kids? Like, typically we try to stay someplace where we've got access to a washer and dryer, so I can really be minimal with the packing of their clothes, because on top of it being a pain to pack all that stuff, then, the unpacking and just managing all of their various items for 3 kids plus myself, like, that's just a lot. So we always try to go really minimal with our packing, and then try to stay someplace that's got, a washer and dryer available to us, just to make it a little bit easier. I mean, other than that, like I said, I'll typically make a list, whether that's in my head or just jot something down really quick, just to really, really stick with the basics, because it just adds so much complication to the whole scenario. And Chad and I are kind of ridiculous. I'm sure we look ridiculous walking through the airport, but we have got 3 car seats that we have to travel with.
I was going to say, let's break that down. So we leave the house, and the Tahoe is stuffed to where the door barely shuts. Okay, that's one. Then we get there, and I will just go ahead and tell you, I valet park at the airport. And the reason I do it is because of how short the walk is and how much we're carrying. It is insane. It is worth the extra $11 a day or whatever it is for us to go do that. So that's the next thing. So I'm not kidding when I say on my back, just mine, will be a giant black suit or car seat bag where we try to stuff 2 things in there. And then we'll randomly throw like shoes or hats or something else on top of the car seats inside that bag, whatever didn't fit in the luggage. Then we each have bags that we originally bought for Europe, which are full-on suitcases. Then we have I have my bag, my carry-on for computer, electronics, all that stuff. Each of the boys has a backpack. You have a bag. And we're talking about masks, snacks, wipes, toys, like anything and everything, right? Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, the little play crib for Lachlan.
Yeah, but we don't always travel with that. I would say
no, but I'm saying we have.
Yes,
so if you want to max it out.
Yes.
And then last but not least, because we're not leaving these at home, golf clubs. So
yeah, which is ridiculous.
So we have 2 suitcases, golf clubs, that bag, car seat bag. Each of us has their own backpack carrying on. So, yes, trying to, I mean, you got, it looks like a one-man band kind of travel situation where you got all these things loaded on. I've only used the cart service, where you go stick your credit card in, you get the cart. It's like that movie, The Terminal. You return it and you get a quarter. That's what Tom Hanks lived off of. So that's what I look like. I've only done that once, though. Those things aren't even that helpful.
No, they're not. They're not big enough to even carry your stuff.
I need like a Hilton, bellhop cart to get through the airport the way we do it. But those are the things that we have. Now, I will say tips, tricks that I look for is make sure you check in on time, especially if you're doing Southwest. Make sure you check in on time. And you can do the family boarding, but you still end up 20 rows back. You all get to sit together, but just if you can get in that early A group, it does make a difference, because a lot of times it's when the plane lands and stops. That's when a lot of the agitation starts, because you're on row 20 and the kids don't understand that 19 rows ahead of you have to get off the plane in order for that to make sense. You got to be aware of your seats, like who's going to sit with who on what row, because that's going to make a difference. You're going to have strangers possibly sitting next to you or your kid. You got to have movies downloaded, because you can't always trust the internet.
You can almost never trust the internet.
Correct.
And the kids don't understand why their shows are buffering.
It's a nightmare. Yeah. When Scooby-Doo doesn't play when Scooby-Doo is supposed to play, all hell breaks loose on Southwest Airlines. Okay. So have movies downloaded, have snacks, because the kids don't understand why we won't let them have Coca-Cola or the airplane cookie. So have snacks, if you're going to need the food. Have changes of clothes. I can personally attest from this. Best story ever, which was the worst at that current moment. So Nash has peed himself on the plane, which sucks, but it's not awful, but it does suck. Has Gray done that? I feel like he has once.
Maybe once.
Okay. The worst ever, though, was actually last year, I believe it was, coming home from Hawaii. And we get on the flight, or coming home from San Diego, which was from Hawaii. So we get on the Southwest flight, San Diego to Phoenix, connect in Phoenix, going to Nashville. Well, Nash didn't use the bathroom during the layover. Didn't have to, apparently. As the plane just takes off, we're still where you can get a cell phone signal from the airplane. Okay. That's how close we are to the ground. Nash looks at me, tells me he has to poop. I tell him, you've got to hold it. There is no option. You absolutely have to hold this. Well, he's only 4 at the time, or maybe it was the year before and he was 3. I can't remember. But he looks at me and this terrified face, and I felt so bad for him. But this poor little kid with these big eyes and terrified face looks at me, and I'll never forget the words, "Daddy, the poop is coming."
He's going to love that you're telling this story about
and that's
when
it.
he's older.
Yeah, that's it. And he literally, had the accident in his pants. So we have to go to the restroom, and you know how tight those bathrooms are. So I have to stand. We have to just get in there, and the flight attendant's like, "You're supposed to be in your seat." I'm like, "He's got poop in his pants. What do you want me to do?" And it's not a diaper either, lady. So we go in. I have to maneuver myself, and I'm trying to navigate around his backside as well to not get stuff on me. I have to wedge myself behind the toilet with my back up against the bathroom wall and have Nash stand in front of me and kind of work him back to where I can get him out of his clothes, minimize the poop getting all over the bathroom, and then literally help him wipe, get him cleaned up, and do his thing. Then take the clothes. I just throw them away. We didn't even try to save them. Throw those away. Looks like some murder scene in the bathroom at one point, and then get back to the seat. That was horrific. I mean, it was everywhere. Hands, legs, arms. That was dad moment so far of my life.
Doesn't that just make you want to use an airplane bathroom?
Yes.
Guys? Yeah.
So those are experiences and stories we've had. Those are things you got to do. You got to pack. You got to make sure the kids go to the bathroom before the plane. I've now tricked them because they don't like to go. They, for some reason, think it's punishment to just go pee before they get on the plane. So now I always tell them, well, I have to go. So you have to come with me. When you get them in there, then
Every time they'll go.
they go. Yeah, they go every single time. They're like, fine, I guess I'll go this time. So that's just a little trick for you. Tell them you have to go, and then it changes everything. In flight, I'll just tell you, it can be tough because you're just looking for 4 to 6 hours of distractions. That's really all you're looking for, right? I mean, it's just kind of hold your breath, hope they do well, and don't get bored with movies or games, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, but I would say that Nash and Gray do pretty darn well on the plane.
No, they do. I'm very nervous about Locke this trip.
This
He's our
year-
best child, by the way. He's our best child. But I'm worried about him because he's now mobile.
He's mobile. He wants to get out and explore. I can't really distract him with breastfeeding as easily. I'm really hopeful that he's going to nap a lot. When you're traveling with a newborn, a lot of people worry about that, but traveling with a newborn is really easy because they typically eat and sleep. As soon as they're mobile, that's really where it gets to be challenging. And really, it's been challenging to travel with Locke since he was about 6-7 months old because, again, he wants to get up and move around and climb over the seat and see what everybody's doing.
Yep.
And so just keeping him entertained is really tough because he's not going to be entertained, obviously, by a screen or anything like that. So I'm going to be bringing lots of little toys for him. And then, just really hope that he actually sleeps for the majority of the longer flights.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of relive that. Where you got the 1-year-old trying to get all over the airplane and not understanding how to be still for 4, 5, 6 hours, depending on which leg of the flight you're on.
Yeah, for sure.
When you land, highly recommend, Dad, run to the car rental counter and then let everybody else go to baggage claim. Kids will be mesmerized by conveyor belts with bags. So it's a good distraction while you can go stand in line ahead of everybody else who just got off the plane and go ahead and get the rental car, get that set up, get the keys, do the whole thing, let them sell you on why you need insurance and you decline it, and then grab the car and then you go help with the bags. When we go to Hawaii, and I think we've done this some other airports, a lot of times too, we'll take the bags and just set them at the curb. You got to stay with your bags, but Brittany and the kids will stay with the bags. I'll actually go to the offsite rental car place and then come back around and pick them up. So maybe that seems obvious, but save yourself the hassle of
trying to get them on the shuttle to the place is just
all the bags too.
Yeah.
It's just all the bags. You're trying to minimize bag movement is all you're trying to do here.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal there. Brittany mentioned places we stay. We don't stay at hotels. We never do.
Yeah.
One, it doesn't have the amenities. You don't have a kitchen where you can save money by ordering groceries in and doing breakfast or snacks or lunches or dinners, whatever, from time to time. Also, you have more space. I mean, imagine us trying to do 5 in a hotel room for a week.
No, thank you.
That would be awful. That would be hell on earth. Washer and dryer that she mentioned, that's a big deal. So we always do Airbnb. We go to Disney. We do the villas. No, we don't pay outrageous for the villas. Actually get crazy cheap villas. We can explain that in a whole Disney episode down the road. But we always just make sure Airbnb, VRBO, we stay at houses or something, or condos with multiple bedrooms where you got room to spread out. You got playrooms, you got kitchens, you got everything that you would really have at home for the most part to be able to function.
Yeah. And then, the kitchen is so crucial. And Chad used to tease me all the time that I wouldn't stay anywhere or travel anywhere that wasn't in close proximity to like a Whole Foods, which is true because that's, primarily where we shop. But again, I think that speaks to kind of trying to stick to your routine as much as possible. And of course we will absolutely eat out, but trying to round up three, but rounding up 3 kids to go to a restaurant is terrible. It's not enjoyable for anybody. Like we might do that once or twice, but being able to do a lot of our meals in the room just saves a lot of frustration, right?
Yep.
And so, we always will scope out kind of the grocery situation,
food trucks.
Yeah, prior to where we're, wherever we're going. So I kind of know like exactly what we're going to do. In Hawaii, we'll typically hit up Costco right when we get there and stock up because like Chad said, we're usually there for, several days, usually close to 2 weeks. And so,
whether we're there for 5 days or 3 weeks,
right.
Like we do Costco's or Whole Foods all the time.
Yep.
Yeah. You got to figure these things out. And again, these things come from our experience. Like we didn't always know this stuff. We learned a lot of it and we'll continue to learn as we go and the more we travel and things like that. This time for Hawaii, we both do kind of just sitting around, resting, detoxing, just hanging out, not worrying about things. But then a lot of times we fall into this rut of, okay, well, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. What do you want to do? Well, what do the kids want to do? There's always that debate as to what's up next. So I actually, for the first time that we've gone to Hawaii, have made a list of like activities or things that we are going to do or will do, because sometimes, especially our kids, I was talking about this, I think with you the other day, in our generation, is that when we grew up, we didn't have the iPad. Like I had Nintendo and it was the step up from Atari. So I had the old Nintendo, and then past that, that was it. Like you didn't have Netflix, you didn't have Disney Plus, you didn't have iPads, you didn't have smartphones, you didn't have anything that would basically keep you inside. So if you wanted to do anything, you had to go outside.
Right.
And you had to play. Or I would convert the living room to a baseball field. But at least I was active. Like I was doing something. Mm-hmm. And our kids today, and I think a lot of kids fall into this, they get sucked into, I can just watch 24 hours of iPad. Like they could literally watch shows all day long and not move. So a lot of times, and Brittany's better than I am about this, you force them outside. You say you have to go outside, you have to go play, you have to run, you have to play with your toys, whatever. So sometimes even on vacation, you have to be mindful of that. Like if you don't have a couple of things planned, or you're in a new place, you don't know the schedules as well, you don't know what to expect, you don't know how when you go it may impact what happens the rest of the day, or if you can even do it, or if they're open, if they're closed, how much it's going to cost. Like if you don't plan for some of these things, then it can actually come back to bite you and make things even worse on that specific day. So we've actually planned some things this time, or I have.
Yeah, I mean, last year I was very newly postpartum, so I was very happy to just lay around with the baby and not do anything. Yeah. But yes, this year I think it's going to be,
kids are a little
different.
older too.
Kids are a little older. Yeah, we'll be able to do a little bit more. Hopefully things will be a little more open, because last year we got to Kauai literally 2 days before the island shut down to travelers again, or you had to come and you have to do a 14-day quarantine if you were coming to the island. So we got to avoid that, but that also meant that a lot of things were closed down, and it really limited what we could do, which again, I didn't really care so much because I was newly postpartum, but that definitely made a difference, and hopefully this year things will be a little more open.
Yeah, and it was a catch-22 because it was nice how quiet the island was.
Yeah.
But so many things were closed or not open, or limited hours, or short staff, things like that. We enjoy going to where we stay is next door to the Grand Hyatt. We enjoy going to their pool. You can pay for a pass to use their pool and their amenities for a day. We always enjoyed that. We were able to do it once. We usually do it 2 or 3 times. So things like that where it gets cut short, you can't do kind of what you're wanting to do. That was the fallback, but that's a first world problem. It was still pretty nice just to be there and how quiet and simple everything was. So I highly, by the way, recommend Kauai.
Yeah.
That place is gorgeous. It's low key. Now, if you're wanting like fast pace and uh, sightseeing and all these things, like that's not your place. Like they have some things to do. You can go hiking. You can go out on like the excursions and the yachts and drive around and do some tours and plantations. But it is not your Maui or your Honolulu by any means. It's a completely different Hawaii.
Which is
But
what
your
we like.
favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We like that more laid back.
And
vibe.
you've been to Honolulu, right? You
there.
lived there. And then Maui, we went. And was that your only time to Maui?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. And then you've been to Kauai, of course. Have you been to anywhere else in Hawaii?
No.
Okay. So I've been to the Big Island. That's the only other place. I didn't really like it that much, but it was a very short stay. I mean, it's still nice, but I didn't like it compared to the others. I kind of want to do Molokai sometime.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know why. If you don't like the Big Island, I don't see why you would want to do Molokai, but okay.
Well, the Big Island experience was a little bit different as to why we were there and who we were with and that kind of stuff. So I would like to do, I think Molokai, not for an entire week or anything. Almost like you hop over for 2 days, and it's supposed to be so like 1970s Hawaii. I don't think there's a traffic light on the island or something like that. It's crazy, but very just chill. Oh, like Gilligan's Island. That's what I want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe not with the kids.
No, definitely not with the kids. Not with the kids at all. So any other stories you can think of we should share or anything as we kind of wrap this up?
I don't know, to scare people. All I want to say is, I got a lot of comments last year about, traveling during the pandemic.
Yeah, let's
and,
talk about that.
Chad and I have really been intentional about travel, and, we want our kids to have these experiences. We want to have these experiences, and we felt really confident about our decision to do that last year. We actually, in preparation for recording this, we're kind of just looking over the statistics as far as COVID transmission and airplane travel, because of course most of the time we are traveling by plane versus in our car, where obviously the risk is negligent, or negligible rather. But all that is to say, there's really not that much great data. The airlines have really put out a lot of, or done a pretty good job of campaigning on the idea that transmission during a flight is really, really low. And, we looked at one study where it said the chance of coming down with symptomatic COVID was like 1 in 27 million. I don't know that it's that small. That seems really extreme to me. But it does seem like overall the data is saying that, the chances of contracting COVID on your flight are pretty low. So for us, we evaluated our risks, and we're all pretty healthy. We thought that it was worth it to us, especially because we certainly weren't going to be separated from, my family is in California. It wasn't worth it to us to not see our family for, over a year. And, we're going into 2 years of this. And it was really important for us to continue to have these experiences. And, we're pretty lucky because our kids are so little. They really don't have any idea that we have been going through this pandemic. And I love that. I love that we've kind of been able to shelter them in some ways and keep things pretty normal for them. And I feel really blessed that we, didn't have kids who are 8, 9, 10 or, high school age who really kind of lost so much in the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's that's the big thing. Is just like Brittany was saying, it's not that I've been irresponsible or anything like that. I follow all the rules. If you wear a mask, you wear a mask. If it's optional, I don't. And we've done our travel. We've done our things, and we just kind of take it as, I don't want to not live life, I guess, is a good way. We look at data. We understand risks. We understand why some people do things and why some people don't do things. And it's everybody's personal decision. But to me, like, I've never felt unsafe, getting on a plane or going through the airport or anything like that. And I understand you can contract the virus and things like that, but I don't know. To me, like I said, I would rather, go experience things, experience the world, and do the best we can and be as safe as we can while we do it. But I've done ball games. We've gone to Disney. We've gone to Hawaii. We've gone to
We've traveled a lot.
California.
We've traveled, pretty much at our normal level, which is a lot. There were a couple trips that we had to cancel. One was because we didn't get Locke's passport back in time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've really maintained kind of our normal level of travel, which has been great. I think that that's been really important for like our mental and emotional health. And I know so many people have felt really isolated in the last almost 2 years. And that's really a huge issue that I think is not really getting as much attention as it should. I think that's had huge implications for so many people. And we, as human beings, we need that connection. We cannot just see people on a screen or even talk to them on the phone and get the same health benefits and the same level of satisfaction as when we are actually in community, in person with our people. I think that is so incredibly important.
Yeah, 100% agree. So, anything else to add before we wrap up?
I would just say that, if you are reluctant to travel with your kids, just know that it is, it can be a lot, but it is so worth it. It's so worth it for you guys to have these experiences. I think that definitely, taking the time to plan ahead, again, being really minimal. I mean, it didn't sound very minimal when Chad was describing all the things that we bring. But typically we do definitely err on the more minimal side, planning ahead with meals, eating in as much as you can, staying in places that do have a kitchen and a washer and dryer. Like those things will make such a more enjoyable experience so that you don't get home and feel like you need a vacation from your vacation. And that's something that we really try to
you do.
Yes and no. I mean, I definitely think that that's one of the things that we've really learned, and kind of how to plan our vacations in a way where we are not so exhausted from the experience that we don't really want to do it again for a long time. Like we travel pretty consistently because I think we do it in a kind of sustainable, energizing way.
We do, yeah. And working remote and from home has been nice too, because I literally can work anywhere, and a lot of times I will. Like when I go to Hawaii, or say I go for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I don't not work for 2 to 3 weeks. Like I'm bugging everybody who's there because I'm getting up at 4 a.m., which is 8 a.m. here, in order to work. Now, the nice part of that is at noon out there, everybody here is kind of wrapped up. So you almost have the entire back half of the day to do whatever you want, or can fit into the sunlight or whatever you want to do there. So pros and cons. I know everybody can't work remote or has that flexibility, but if you do, feel free to ping me or message me on the side, because we make that happen as well. And that's a big part of it. We're kind of lucky to have that. I know, again, everybody doesn't, but if you can, don't let work, if you have the remote accessibility, be a reason not to go, because you can make that work. You can figure it out. I promise. But all right, well, that's it. Episode 3. Thank you guys for joining us. If you have questions, want to ask something on the side, feel free, of course, DM, comment, engage however you feel that is necessary. Connect with us. Would love to have you and talk with you. If you can give us a review, that would be amazing as well. And appreciate whether you found this on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, where else? Where other millions of places can you find? I don't know. Just if you found it and you like it, a review or rating or commenting and letting us know you appreciate it would be greatly appreciated and accepted by us. So everybody have a great one. We'll chat with you again soon, give you another episode as we continue kind of down this journey with our lives and how we live it, and hope that some way that connects with you as well. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.